Hello and welcome to the Ladies Best Life podcast. I am super excited because we have yet another guest here today. Alex has actually been on the podcast before and we thought we'd bring her back because of how well received it was last time. Alex is an incredible NLP and business coach, so basically mindset and business coach in Shrewsbury, but she helps people all over the world to scale up their business and to also get clarity of thinking and to look after their minds and all of those wonderful things. Alex, just like Jen, is one of our in-house mindset coaches, and we are so lucky inside the coaching club to have women like this who help to lead the way alongside me and the other ladies. Alex has been in the program for well over a year now. She is our longest standing coach and has brought in so much golden value. And today we're going to be digging into her journey, why she is the way she is now, why she is a coach, and all of those wonderful things. So Alex, it is a fucking honor to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, darling. What an intro. Love that. I'm so pleased to be back on, and I'm so ready to dive deep into my story.
So let's go straight in then.
All right.
Where did it all begin? What is the most significant moment that you remember in your childhood? Why are you where you are now?
So when I was preparing for this, I thought really the most pivotal thing in my life really that I discovered was from a very, very early age, which is that I've never known who my dad is. And I think it's funny now, we can look back in hindsight and you can kind of see, like, of course I've made the choices I have and become the woman that I am because of where it all started. So from the get-go, never knew who my birth father was, and also knew that he had another child who he'd chosen to have contact with. So kind of knew from the very first memories I had, I'm not good enough. And that I was chosen to not be part of someone's life. And I think subconsciously that really had a massive effect on how I was and how I developed and grew into the child that I became. I was painfully shy thinking back. And I had this sense that I didn't belong. Like, that was the key thing for me. I was like, where do I belong? My mum met someone new, had two more children. So I've got two, well, I don't like to use the word half sister, but I have got two half sisters, and then me and the eldest. It was always like, there's a family and then there's me, and I don't really fit into the family. And unfortunately did not have a great relationship with, who I call my dad. And this is the beautiful thing about, going on your own journey and learning about your mind and choosing who you want to be, is I love both my parents dearly. I really do. And I'm actually thankful that everything happened the way it did, because I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now if I hadn't had to go and search for it. But yeah, my childhood for me, and I'm sure some people listening to this will resonate, childhood wasn't happy. I don't look back fondly and go, oh, the good old times, and I was so carefree. And no, it wasn't any of those things. I remember being scared. I was living in fear, like a fearful state all the time, scared of, of having a lot of strict kind of commandments coming from, my dad, and always feeling like, why am I being treated different? Am I different? And all of these questions just built and built and built. And that really, that bled into my teenage years, and made me a very specific type of teenager. I know that I've always had intelligence, but with no direction and guidance or support, I was off the bloody rails. Like, I was one of the dicks behind the pavilion smoking and doing all sorts of stuff, and I just gravitated towards, I suppose, belonging to something. And that crowd took me in, and I was like, cool, I'm going to be part of your crowd, because that feels better for me to be part of anything than to have that just floating sense that I just frigging don't belong anywhere. And obviously being part of that crowd, comes a lot of consequences. You know, I put myself in a lot of dangerous situations where, yeah, like that no one was looking after me, and that no one was looking after me. And around that time, teenage years, I think my parents finally got a divorce. You know, that was a marriage that should never have happened, you know, a marriage full of mental health problems. And it sounds like there's a lot here, but it's really unpicking this and looking back now, it's not surprising why I got to a point, you know, towards, I'd say 22 was the pivotal bit for me, where I was like, yeah, I can't, like, the thought process I had was, I cannot live like this anymore. Like, with my belief system, what I think, what I'm thinking about myself and about the world, everything is just fucking not serving me. I'm desperately unhappy. And yeah, I guess that was a catalyst for me to go, I'm done with that. I'm closing the door on that chapter. And I haven't looked back since. And that's like nearly 10 years ago now. But yeah, I think I also actually wanted to touch on, so I kind of skipped over that bit there, that there was, and I want any ladies listening to this to know that when you do not receive the love that you needed and the support and the nurturing environment that I think every child really deep down, that is a need, it's a need. It's just as important as, you know, having food, having water. We need nurture and love and support and encouragement and all of that stuff. And if we don't get that, we do look for it elsewhere. Yes. We look for it elsewhere. For me, I don't know about you, that showed up in my teenage years as desperate for a bloody boyfriend all the time. I need love. And obviously, you know, that translates into sex, like having sex way too early, having, you know, like a very, I say, promiscuous teenage years, when the sex, you know, we all know sex doesn't get enjoyable till you get older and you actually understand what it's all about. So I guess I don't look back now. I have no shame. I have no guilt. And I understand why that version of Alex did the things that she did. She was just looking for love. I want love. Someone love me. Tell me I'm pretty. Tell me I'm okay. Make me feel like I belong to something. So yeah, I suppose looking back at childhood was really interesting when you asked me to reflect on that, because it was a bit of a shit show, really. Be honest.
I was listening to a podcast with Stephen Bartlett and Tony Bellew the other day, and Tony was saying something along the lines of, kids like me didn't get they didn't see solicitors, they didn't see all these success. Like, in order to get the Rolex, they needed to be drug dealers, basically, or steal the money. So for a situation where, because you said at the age of 22, that's where you were like, right, I can't carry on like this. Where did you get that idea from? Where did it come from?
Yeah, so if I'm completely honest, I remember that when I went away to university at 18, and I think this was kind of unraveling and starting to happen before then, but it was the first time I'd moved out of home, and I loved being away from home because home wasn't a happy place for me. However, I spent a lot of time on my own at uni. I had just, I guess, what I can call now social anxiety. It was the feeling of not being safe. I just didn't want to be around anybody. So I became very insular. And now thinking back to it, what I was suffering with was just crippling anxiety. I used to think things like, I'd wake up in the middle of the night, and I'd be staying in a room on my own. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, and I haven't told anyone this before because I thought it always sounds bonkers, but now I understand kind of why I used to think this. But I used to wake up in the middle of the night, and I'd be like facing away from the door, and I'd convinced myself someone was in my room, and I'd stay awake for hours frozen. I wouldn't be able to move. I wouldn't be able to do anything, just literally fear stricken. And then I'd get so tired that I'd fall asleep about 4:30 and then be up at 6 for a lecture. And this just played out like this insomnia. I'd be scared of the apocalypse happening, and got really obsessed with Googling that for ages about the world. I was just a little scared bubble, but this was having a massive toll on my mental health, my nervous system. So this continued the whole way through uni. And then when I got to 22, I'd finished uni and I moved back in with my mum. That was not a good idea. In hindsight, unfortunately, I really, really needed that nurture and love. I was actually, I tried to explain, I think I'm suffering with my mental health. I think I'm depressed or anxious. I'm not sure what's going on, but I'm really not okay. And it wasn't met with anything. And then I started to panic and be like, I don't have anyone. Like, I don't have anyone to talk to. And I'm really scared about what thoughts that I'm thinking in my head. And I suppose I broach around the word suicidal because I know that can be quite like triggering. It's a big word. I'd say that if I hadn't have taken myself to therapy then and there, I don't know what would have happened from that point, because I felt like I just got to a point. I guess it's kind of spiritual in a way, because I was like, there has to be something more than this. That was my thought process. And I found a therapist and I sat there, and I remember she was like, okay, what's brought you here? And I was like, I don't actually know. I don't know what I'm going to get from this, but all I know is I could not continue that. So that was my thought process that led me to it. It was almost the switch of like, could there be another way for me to think? Like, everything I've learned, my map of the world as it was at the age of 22 was not worth living for, if I'm honest. So something within me, was like, reach out. And it was really, really hard to do that, because I didn't know anyone else who'd done therapy, and I felt like a bit, oh, is there something wrong with me? And all of those kind of, all the self-doubt creeps in. But that ultimately, that day changed my life, because from that first session, I was like, oh my God, there's nothing wrong with me. I've just learned so many things that don't serve me. And I've learned to believe that I'm all of these things that I'm not. And that was kind of the creation of Alex version 2. Because I think like you've got version 1, version 2. This Alex started the unraveling, the unlearning process right from that day.
It's interesting because the day, like, so how you explained the situation with your dad, and all you needed and craved as a child was that unconditional love, someone to be, there for you at times, always when you needed them, and not necessarily from giving, but just that holding that space. That literally linked in my mind when you came back from uni. That's all that you needed, and again, you weren't met. And that, like, what I find interesting is just posing the question, why did it encourage you to go down the route of get help rather than down the route of suicide?
I guess I'd got to a point where I felt so let down by seeking this thing outside of me, this support, this love, that I considered, like, and I knew of being classing myself as intelligent and like intellectual minded. I was like, is this something I can give? Is this something I can give myself? Is it? And I think just having been let down so many times, even from my birth father being like, you're not good enough. No, I'm not gonna meet you and know you and support you. And then my adoptive dad saying, not going to love you, not going to show you any love. And then my mum. And it's like all of these key figures. I guess I'd realized, okay, I need to stop looking where I'm not going to get what I need. And I think I may have read a book. I met that might have been when I read The Emotionally Unavailable Mother, I think it's called. Not very well. I'd gone on Amazon and been like, what can we do? Again, because I was, I'll be honest, at that point, I was still strongly in victim mode. I was in like, poor me. How bad's this for me? Oh, like what an awful life. And it sounds like I'm being hard on myself, but I kind of had to be as well. And you do have to be, and you have to say, right, like life's not about, I listened to this on a podcast, I just love this analogy, life is not about having the best ingredients, right? Because some of us have shit ingredients like that, you'd be like, how can you make anything out of that? It's being a chef. Be the best chef, because that is the only thing that's in your control. You can't control your parents, you can't control your family, you can't control like all this external stuff that's that you're given, but you can still create magic from whatever ingredients you're given. If you're a frigging good chef and you just put your chef hat on and go, right. And sometimes the more the shitter the ingredients are, the more exciting it is, because you're like, okay. And it and that kind of internally fired me up to go, I wonder what I can actually do if I take my focus away from being sad and mourning that childhood that I didn't have, and feeling sorry for that little girl who didn't get X, Y, and Z, and I actually focus it on what do we actually want, what's here, what haven't we experienced yet, and how can I use all of the sadness and the pain and all of that stuff, adversity, how can I use that and go and help a shitload of people who relate to that, and who share maybe part of that similar story.
Love it. And I think it is so true, because you know, we've had Jen on the podcast recently, we have had Sahara in the past, and all of you have told your stories, and every single one of you have been through the fucking mill. And victim mode is a real thing. There is such a thing as being compassionate towards yourself and expressing that self-love and self-care, obviously, but change does not occur from that place of excusing yourself. It really doesn't. And that will trigger the fucking life out of some of you listening to this, and I'm sorry, but honestly, you will see it when the time is right, that giving yourselves those reasons. So Alex could have easily been like, oh, I've had such a bad upbringing, no man has loved me, you know, what lesson does that teach you to take into relationships in your future, you know? So one question that came into my mind when you said about the chef is, how can you be the best chef then?
How can you be the best chef? That's a very good question. Well, ultimately, as with most things in life, it's you choose it. You choose it. Would you like to be a chef, or would you like to just keep looking at the ingredients and pushing them around and being like, oh, that's crap? Like you got to choose it. And I think a massive realization for me, I lost one of my best friends in a horrible car accident when we were both 19, and that probably should have added that to pivotal catalyst moment of, we only have one life, and I'm not wasting a moment of it being bitter and resentful, and you know, and trying to make myself feel better by going back there and revisiting the pain. I made a decision that I'm going to heal from it. And the healing journey, let's be honest, it kind of rears its ugly head at different points. Like, I thought we dealt with that, and it comes up. It gave me purpose, realizing that you do get to choose. So that question, I guess, to come full circle, how can you be a chef, is, I think, A, you firstly have to choose it, and B is know that whatever cards that you've been dealt, whatever ingredients are there, like own that. You don't have to have guilt, and you don't have to have shame. And I assure you that even though you might not see it and understand it right now, your biggest pain and your biggest areas of your life where you feel the most discomfort, they are the places that you need to lean into, because they are going to be the thing that's going to fuel your fire when you can go there, and when you can use whatever lesson that thing, that experience, whatever it was, like if you seek the lesson in there, that is how you can find the purpose to live a better, more inspiring bloody life that you enjoy. Because you do start to enjoy the small things and be more grateful for what you got.
Definitely. And I think, you know, there's a different way that you can look at it, and I'm the same with my past. Like, for years I went down the process of whatever happened with my mum and my dad happened. I don't give a fucking shit. It is just what it is. He's a dick. Good night, Irene. But it's not been until I've properly started working on it with a therapist early last year that I've actually pulled, and that's the difference between almost suppressing and healing. You know, that's the difference between toxic positivity and just having an optimistic or like an open mind, if you like we're not here saying to you just push them all fucking down. We're here saying to you, bring them up to the surface, work through it, give yourself compassion, especially if shit happened to you when you were younger. You have to meet yourself with where you were at that age. That's something that I've really struggled with, is going, why do I fucking care that my dad walked out? It's his decision, so be it. Oh no, wait there. When I look at it from the 4-year-old who absolutely like doted on her father, of course she's fucking upset. Of course that's something that's going to play out into the rest of your life if you let it and don't kind of pattern interrupt. And I think that, especially that point about you losing your best friend, that's another one of those pivotal moments that you can go, oh, because of that, like, I'm just going to drink myself to the ground. Like, what's the fucking point? Like, life is so unfair. Or you could be, because of that, I fucking realized how short life is. Because of that, I've realized that my time on this planet is finite. There will be a day that I take my final fucking breath, and I have a choice what I do with every single breath that I am given the gift of. And I think that's what I'm learning from speaking to you ladies, is that that's what we do. We grab the fucking bull by the horns, and we you know, we make mistakes. We have crap days. We'll all lean on each other at times. We're not superhuman. We're not toxic positive people. We're understanding, we're empathetic. So if you look at your business now and the way that you live your life, obviously I understand the story now of your past. What would you, like, if you were to put it in like a paragraph, what is the driving force? What is the thing that when you're fucking exhausted and you know you've got those incredible ladies to go and serve, or new people on the horizon, what is the driving force that makes you do it?
Oh, that's such a good question. So it makes me feel a little bit emotional. That's a good thing to say, obviously.
Yeah, don't start, because I will cry.
Sorry. I just think for me, if I can just help even one person to never feel how I did, and I think I've got, and it just makes me sad, because I think I didn't understand it as a kid. Like, I have so much love to give, and I just love like spreading it to like as many people as possible. And I always thought I was this shy, like weird, like autistic, I was called sometimes. Like, I thought I was a strange, weird child who didn't have any gifts and who was shit at everything. And now, like, I get to work with women and I get to see these amazing transformations, and it just, like, I can't explain how it feels, because I didn't think I could access that level of like emotion and purpose and motivation. And I just, yeah, it kind of makes up for the years that didn't feel that good. Like, now I know that I've got a choice, and I can continue to step into whatever else Alex is going to do. It just feels really good. To change one person's life would be enough for me, to make them realize that they are amazing and they're worthy, and they can be so much more than they probably might have ever been told by the people in their life. So I guess to be a bit of not a parent, but a voice of love and support, and an encouragement for people who need it.
100%. And it's such an honor, isn't it, to work with people. And even when, like, it's not even just working with people. Like, I know now I'm in a really good headspace. It's giving the old man who walks his dog around the quarry and loves a 20-minute chat when you're rushing, but giving him the space and time because you're happy in yourself. And I think you can change it. Like, so I'm basically talking to people who are listening to this, who may be in an office job where there isn't that kind of serving, if you like, or they're in a job and they're so underwhelmed and underfulfilled. You know, there are ways to give. And when you give, oh my God, it just ignites this incredible feeling within. So I want to ask you a couple more questions. And the next one is, so you've got a listener right now who's listening in, and they're going, it's all well and good. You both of you have turned your pains of your past into your passion, and you really are thriving. You're feeling great. I'm underwhelmed, underfulfilled, I feel like shit, I don't even know who I am anymore, what would you say to them is the kind of the roadmap, or at least the very first kind of turning, if you like, to get out of this current position?
That's a really good question. I suppose if I will liken this to myself. And there was one upon a time. There was time sort now. There was once upon a time where I was sat in my corporate job in an office, tapping data into a computer, and just for some people, if you thrive on that, I commend you, because I really didn't thrive on that at all. And I would often wonder the same, like how do I change from, I know that I'm not enjoying this, but what's the first step, I guess. And my advice would be to get inspired. There are so many ways that you can get inspired, and inspiration is that little flicker inside of you that goes, oh, I like that, and I don't know what it means. It doesn't have to mean anything. It's just listening in and going, where in my life do I feel a little bit bigger, a little bit more important, a little bit lighter, and to keep moving towards that. You don't have to know what you want in life. My vision, my goals are changing all the bloody time, but you know what? I know what I don't want, and I'm unapologetic about it now. People, situations, places, things that I don't want to do. So I would say, go into the wonderful, this thing with the internet, we waste so much time scrolling through, like go onto YouTube and look and search for like inspirational, you can search this, inspirational talks, Tony Robbins. If you haven't listened to a bit of Tony, he's what started my journey, because I listened to him and was like, oh my, I literally, my heart just lifted. I was like, this is so positive, and it makes me feel really good. Being around people, I'd actually say a group, if you can get around a group of women who inspire and motivate you, that shit is contagious. It changes the way that you think. Like, you do become a product of the people you're spending the most time around. So yeah, like you might be terrified of that thought. Oh my God, how am I going to find a group, and how am I going to have the confidence to go and stroll in? It does feel terrifying, but I promise you that there are groups that are waiting to welcome you with open arms. You know, Sash and I, like we thrive on this, and I honestly would never want anyone to feel that they couldn't like approach the coaching club and approach these amazing groups that are built to love and support and nurture you. And just know, even if you haven't got that kind of energy and those people around you, they are out there, and they're so much closer than you think, and they're so ready for you to meet them and to be helped and guided on the way.
Love it. And it is so true. And you know, even if Alex's program or my program are not the ones for you, there are so many. Like, I've joined one today, an online Facebook community for ADHD business owners, because I think I might have a little bit of ADHD. And I'm like, that's a community of people who might understand my flitting business behaviors, you know? That's incredible. And there's so many out there, like crochet. Is it crochet? When you
crochet.
Yeah. I'm like, what do you do? So the final question I want to ask you then, because a lot of people find themselves in struggle. So what do you do when you're going through those dark days or those dark weeks where potentially you drop into victim mode? You know, what's the way that you flip your mindset out of that?
There are a couple of things I do. I feel like I've got a bit of a go-to. Like I think my three main go-tos, when, like, if I know that I'm having a dark day, or I'm feeling a bit funky and a bit like my my energy's not there today, I'm feeling quite pessimistic, which fortunately don't have many of those days, but they do happen. And that's normal, completely normal. It doesn't matter how much coaching that you have or whoever you are going to have those days. So the first thing that I do is, actually, I don't try to think myself out of being in that state. It doesn't work. You can't sit there because actually you're just going to feel worse if you sit there and think and kind of ruminate. I would love for you to feel your feelings. That's definitely good, but it's what you're going to do with that. So movement, I always say, right, Al, put your trainers on, go for a run, then we'll come back and think on the same thing. Completely different mindset when I've done that. So I have to check in with, have I done anything to elevate my energetic state today? Have I spoke to anyone? Have I spoke to any, my people who I know I can be like, and I love, like, you're one of those for me. Like, I know that I've got those kind of few people who you could just say, can we have a chat? And often, as soon as those words have left my lips, it's better. So talking, movement. And the third one, which I probably find the most difficult out of most of them, because it's not what I want to gravitate towards, because I'm a mover and a goer and quite a quick what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, like I tend to go for things that an outlet for my energy that's physical. Meditation and quiet time, that doesn't have to be sat like this in silence. Meditation can just be, put your phone away, put everything away that is busying you, and just listen in for a moment. Because honestly, sometimes when we feel dark, we can find lightness in the stillness, which sounds a little bit backwards, but sometimes, I sometimes it's just putting on like a classical music song for 5 minutes and with my headphones in and closing my eyes and just resetting the mind a little bit. Because let's be honest, in this generation, it's just it's so quick. Everything is so quick. And I think our minds sometimes, personal development, having a career, relationships, health, fitness, all of the things, it's a lot. And I get that. So just little pockets of stillness are going to help your mind so much. But yeah, they're my three.
They're absolutely ace, and a really good kind of diverse collection, if you like. And I think even if someone's listening, you're not a runner, go for a walk. You could literally do 5 stretches in your spare room. And don't forget, so meditation, I am like, as society, we are driven into do. Okay, it's all about the doing. It's about filling your time up. It's about to-do lists. It's about all this do. Meditation just brings us into the be. Now, for me, I really fucking struggle to lie or sit or whatever and just focus on my breath. Like I got into a point where I got really good at it, and then I had all these big changes this year. Now I struggle with it. But what I do, so every walk I go on with Rodney or whatever it might be, I will look for things. This sounds weird. So if you see me walking around touching trees, like rubbing leaves and stuff, this is what I'm doing. So I'm bringing myself into this moment. So what we've just done for the last half an hour, Alex, is meditation, because my brain hasn't left this room. I've been here with you. We've been connected. My brain hasn't gone elsewhere. So I see this as a different type. It's the same as when you go for a run, for the first couple of miles, sometimes your brain's like, oh, fucking, I've got to do this, got to do that. And that really annoyed me, that comment. But then you get into that flow, don't you? Get into that rhythm. And that's like an active meditation. So for those of you who aren't ready to light the incense sticks and sit there humming, maybe we just need to go, what is happening right now to your senses? What can you hear? What can you smell? Even when you're eating, how many people eat with distraction on their phone, like wolfing down the food, not even tasting it? I'm now practicing this kind of mindful eating as a form of meditation. Will literally be like sniffing my fork. Like, what does this even smell like? Oh yeah, because I got to the point where I wasn't really tasting food, couldn't really taste it. So because it's just that go again. And as you know, with our coaching club women, they are absolute, the same as us, awful for it. So slow down to speed up, master the art of surrender, because it is all part of it. Where can we will do definitely a part 2, because we need so much more to unpick. Part 3, won't it? Where can our listeners find you to connect with you, my lovely?
So I am on Instagram. I'm Alex McCarthy Coaching on Instagram. And I've also got a Facebook group, which is for business and mindset tips and different bits of help and advice, and that is the Ignite Hub with Alex McCarthy. But yeah, mostly over on those two places. So yeah, please come and connect with me. I'd love that. And thank you, Sash. I've actually really enjoyed this conversation. So thank you so much for having me on.
You're very welcome.